Hello, my name is Sarah Haig. I'm a Dare County Extension Master Gardener volunteer. Welcome to today's Library Garden series about succulents. Succulents is a broad term which includes many plants. By definition, succulents are plants that have thick, fleshy leaves, stems, or roots that are adapted to storing water. This really describes the characteristics of a plant rather than a specific type. We will review general information about succulent types and care, and then highlight several specific plants that grow here on the Outer Banks or that make good houseplants. When talking about succulents, many people are familiar with the tall, prickly cactus one often sees in the desert, or jade plants, or hens and chicks, or the holiday or Christmas cactus. There are so many more. Using succulents in your landscape or as indoor plants has become a big gardening trend. Some of their popularity is due to the fact that they grow well in hot, dry environments where other plants may not do so well, and they need minimal care. Succulent plants are found throughout the world wherever regular periods of drought occur, everywhere except Antarctica. Some have leaves while others do not. The leaves are usually covered with a hairy or waxy material that reduces evaporation from the surface. Cactus plants are succulents and are native from Alaska to Chile in the Western Hemisphere. They have fleshy roots or stems that store water, prickly or hairy coverings, and a few have leaves. Some people find it difficult to differentiate between a true cactus and other succulents. Cacti have small, round, cushion-like structures called areoles, from which spines, branches, hairs, and even flowers grow. Some of these areoles are very prominent, while others, like on this Christmas cactus, are harder to see. So why select succulents for your home? Succulents are plants that need minimal care. They can thrive even with dry soil and neglect. Most succulents adapt to a wide range of temperatures because this is what occurs in their native habitats, where it is very warm during the day and cold at night. Because succulents store water, they require less water than other herbaceous plants. They like to nearly dry out in between waterings. The watering process is similar to other types of plants, but just not as often. Succulents like being fed, but they do not require as much fertilizer as other plants. Use a balanced fertilizer during their active growing cycle, which is from March through September. Succulents are tough plants and can survive bug infestations if kept healthy, but they are not bug-proof. Aphids may attack the new growth and flowers on succulents. Mealybugs may hide near new growth between the leaves and may be in the soil surrounding the plant. And of course, snails may chew on everything. Powdery mildew can appear on the leaves of succulents, especially during hot, humid weather. When you see evidence of pests or mildew, using insecticidal soap or a mixture of dish soap and water will help eliminate them. Observation is your best weapon in finding an infestation quickly, and keeping the plant healthy will help it resist pests. Many succulents are not cold hardy, but there are several that can overwinter in the Outer Banks, such as Delosperma, Sedum species, hens and chicks, yucca, prickly pear cactus, and agave. Many of these are salt tolerant. Succulents that produce flowers attract many types of pollinators. Succulents offer a lot of diversity. The flowers of the Delosperma, the striped yucca in the middle of a perennial bed, and hens and chicks offer a great range of colors and shapes. Sedums add a lot of texture as a ground cover, while the agaves, both blue and green, add color and interest to the landscape. Succulents grow well in containers and are great houseplants for the person who travels a lot or is very busy. They are relatively easy to grow and require minimal watering. Succulents grown indoors need bright light, so a south or west-facing window would be best. During the summer, you can take them outside to enjoy the fresh air. Many people think that a succulent can grow anywhere with no care. In fact, there is a saying about the succulent called stonecrop that it got its name because the only thing easier to grow is a stone. However, succulents have the same basic needs as other plants: soil, water, light, and nutrients. Good drainage is a must. The soil systems of these plants can be small, and overwatering them causes rapid death, so the key is to have free-draining soil. You can make your own soil mixture with potting soil, sharp builder's sand, and peat, or use the pre-packaged cactus and palm mixture available at a local nursery. Most succulents like full sun, but in really hot areas, they appreciate a little protection from the late afternoon sun. There are also several succulents that do well in part shade, such as hayworthias and peperomias. When purchasing succulents for the landscape, read the label to check on their cold hardiness. Many succulents will not survive temperatures below freezing. Water succulents thoroughly so that the water saturates evenly throughout the soil. You can use a finger in the top inch of soil to see how dry it is, or use a soil moisture meter like this. These handy meters are inexpensive and let you test various spots in the pot for moisture. They can be a lifesaver for people who like to water too often, like me. In addition to feeling or testing the soil, be sure to observe the plant. If they seem slightly puckered, water them well, but don't let them sit in water. When the weather is rainy and cloudy, you may need to give the plant smaller doses of water to keep it from getting too wet over an extended period. During its active growing season from March to September, you will need to water more frequently. During the winter months, when plants are dormant, allow them to get very dry, just enough to keep them from shriveling. Usually, this will mean a light watering every few weeks. A balanced fertilizer like 10-10-10 or 20-20-20 will help maintain a healthy growing plant. Since succulents need less fertilizer than other plants, use half-strength fertilizer about once a month during their active growing season. Most succulents are dormant during the winter months, so fertilizing is not necessary then. Now we'll talk about some of the succulents do well on the Outer Banks and that do well as houseplants. For use in the landscape, the most important thing to consider is a plant's cold hardiness and sun tolerance. Select plants that can grow in USDA Zone 8 and choose a planting location that matches the plant's sun requirements. Most of these plants will do well near the beach because they are salt tolerant. Century plant is the common name usually associated with Agave americana. While there are over 200 species of agave that vary greatly in size and color, century plant is one of the most impressive and show-stopping. Not only does the plant look great in the landscape, it's a low-maintenance, drought-tolerant plant. The plant's common name is a bit misleading. While some people think that means these plants live for or bloom after 100 years, it actually matures much faster. Century plants generally take between 8 and 30 years to flower. Once the plant has reached maturity, a central stem grows up to 20 feet tall. Pale yellow or white blossoms appear along this branched flower spire during summertime. Most century plants will die after they flower, although the spineless century plant, Agave attenuata, flowers multiple times a year. The artichoke agave, or Agave parieae, is a beautiful pale blue species that will thrive in part shade. Unlike the Agave americana, it grows only 2 to 3 feet high and wide. It is also a slow grower, and it will flower. Adam's needle, or Yucca filamentosa, is native to the southeast USA and to all areas of North Carolina. The sword-shaped leaves are evergreen, with thread-like filaments curling along the edges and its sharp, pointed tips. Adam's needle prefers coarse, sandy soil that is well drained, but tolerates other soil types. It prefers full sun, but will tolerate partial shade. It can grow 3 to 8 feet high and 3 to 5 feet wide. Aloe Yucca, sometimes called a Spanish dagger, is native to the Atlantic and Gulf coasts of the United States from South Florida, Virginia, and west to the Texas Gulf Coast. It grows in sandy soils and especially on sand dunes along our coast. It is drought tolerant and highly salt spray tolerant. It produces new buds or offshoots near the base of the trunk to form thicket-like areas. It gets its name honestly. The very sharp tips are like daggers, and it is best to plant these where no people or pets might get too close. Hesper aloe parviflora, commonly known as red yucca or coral yucca, is a yucca-like evergreen perennial succulent. It is native to the Chihuahua Desert in western Texas and grows south into northeastern Mexico, where it is typically found growing in desert areas, prairies, rocky slopes, and mesquite groves. Although it is closely related to yuccas, it is a member of the century plant family. It is easily grown in dry, sandy, sharply drained soils in full sun. And while it thrives in hot, dry desert conditions, it is also surprisingly winter hardy up to USDA Zone 5. The key to growing this plant well is having superior soil drainage. It has excellent heat resistance and drought tolerance and very pretty flowers. The prickly pear is in the cactus family and contains over 100 species that are native to North and South America. They are erect or spreading cacti, ranging from small, low-growing shrubs to tree-like specimens reaching 16 feet or more in height. Some are grown as houseplants. They have flat, paddle-shaped stem segments that grow one on top of the other. They all have spines in the areoles, but some have additional large spines, and there are also some spineless varieties. The flowers are showy in yellow, pink, or orange colors, and the fruits are generally fleshy, orange and spiny, but sometimes dry. Every part of the plant is edible. The fibers are made into baskets, and the sap is added to plaster and mortar to add strength. The fruits are sweet and succulent. The flavor is often compared to a mixture of strawberries, fig, watermelon, honeydew, and citrus, with a lot of flavor diversity among the different species and varieties. They are eaten fresh and made into jams, juices, wine, and are used in baking. The pads can be cooked into a very healthy vegetable, similar in taste to green beans. The pads readily root to form new plants, and in some parts of the world they have become invasive. It is resistant to damage by deer and highly salt tolerant. Generally speaking, they need well-drained soil and plenty of sunshine. They are great for use in containers, rock gardens, or coastal areas. All of that said, prickly pears can grow enthusiastically, and can send new plants off into the lawn where people and pets might walk. The small pads can have amazingly long spines. My own advice is to admire these plants from afar in public areas or perhaps other people's yards. One of the most dependable and lovely perennial flowers is Sedum Autumn Joy, with ornamental appeal throughout the year. Sedums are commonly called stonecrop because of the stone-like appearance of their leaves. Plant in full sun in well-drained soil. It will not do well in overly moist or fertile soils. Use it as a specimen plant or plant in groups in borders or rock gardens. It also works well in containers. In spring, rounded, fleshy green leaves emerge. In summer, the flower buds are light pink, and in late summer and early fall, the flowers open to red and are tremendously attractive to butterflies and bees. In the winter, browned flower heads are considered ornamental. To maintain the bushy shape and thick stems, cut or pinch back plants in early spring. It will grow 1 to 2 feet tall and wide and is truly a nice plant for all 4 seasons. Sedum Angelina is a cultivar mainly grown for its striking, spiky yellow leaves. It turns an attractive red-orange color in the fall. Plant in the full sun and use this ground cover in a rock garden, draping over a rock wall, or from a hanging basket. It looks best in small groups or mass planted as a border front or lining a patio or walkway. This plant is resistant to damage by deer and rabbits and tolerates drought, air pollution, and dry, rocky soils. The mat only grows about 1 to 2 inches tall and 1 foot wide. Sempervivum Tectorum, commonly called hens and chicks, is a species of flowering plants native to the mountains of southern Europe and cultivated in the whole of Europe for its appearance. There are many colors and shapes. It is easily grown in average, medium to dry, well-drained soils in full sun. It will tolerate some light shade and, like all succulents, avoid overwatering. Hens and chicks work great in the rock garden, border front, rock crevices, along stone walls, as a small area ground cover, or as edging along foundations. It looks best when planted in groups or massed as a ground cover. Sempervivum spreads by offsets to form colonies. The individual rosettes will die after blooming and should be pinched or removed from the garden at that time. This plant is moderately salt tolerant and is often used in indoor dish gardens. Hardy ice plant, or Dulosperma cooperi, forms a carpet of soft, fleshy green leaves covered with purplish pink, daisy-like flowers over a long blooming season. Space plants 16 to 24 inches apart to give them room to spread. It flourishes in dry, sandy soil in full sun and is perfect for the water-wise landscape, rock walls, or containers. It is evergreen in warmer climate areas, but may have trouble returning after a wet winter. Avoid planting in heavily soils or soils with poor drainage. It is tolerant of heat, moderately salt tolerant, and very drought tolerant. Portulaca grandiflora, also known as moss rose or purslane, is a low-growing annual succulent native to South America. The plant has succulent leaves that are fleshy and narrow, and it grows about 8 inches tall and 1 foot wide, forming a mat. The flowers are red, orange, yellow, white, and pink colors that come in single, semi-double, and double forms. The flowers will not open on a cloudy or rainy day and close from sundown to sunup. This plant has a high drought and heat tolerance and needs to be planted in well-drained sandy or rocky soils in full sun. Use moss rose in a rock or crevice garden, in front of the border, in pots or hanging planters, or allow it to cascade down a wall. It will self-seed but will not become invasive. Deadheading will deter self-seeding. These are a little tricky to transplant, and care should be given when handling seedlings. Now we'll talk about just a few of the types of succulent plants you might like for your indoor houseplants. They are easy to care for, and many are available in local stores and nurseries, especially during the winter months. Aloe Vera is winter hardy to USDA zone 10 to 12, so a bit south of where we are. Some types of aloe can grow in certain microclimates on the Outer Banks, but they need to be protected. It may be grown indoors or outdoors in containers. As a houseplant, it is easily grown in sandy, well-drained commercial potting looms. It does best in full sun, but it seems to adapt to some part shade. It will need bright light for flowering. It is tolerant of drought and dry indoor air. Water it moderately in spring, summer, and fall, but reduce watering to a minimum in winter. If you take aloe outside for the summer, it should be protected from rain and brought indoors in early fall before night temperatures begin to dip below 50 degrees. Aloe is easily propagated from offsets that appear near the base of mature plants. The one thing most bromeliads, such as the scarlet star, have in common is the rosette formation of the leaves. This rosette can collect and hold rainwater, falling leaves, and forest debris, from which the plant draws nutrients as they decay. To water bromeliads, use rainwater or tap water that has been allowed to sit for a day or two to remove chlorine and fluorine. Fill the center of the rosette cup to mimic nature. You should freshen the water within this cup occasionally by overfilling it until water spills over into the flower pot. Pincushion cacti, or Mammillaria zelmanania, like warm temperatures, 50 to 85 degrees, and bright light. Watering and feeding should be sparse year-round. During the spring, summer, and early fall, water thoroughly when the soil is almost dry. During the winter, reduce watering by half. Provide a half-strength feeding of a balanced cactus fertilizer at the beginning of spring and toward midsummer. Repot or transplant infrequently, as these plants do well when they're slightly root-bound. A window location is typically a bit cooler than the rest of the room, and this cool temperature during the winter months is necessary to spur Mammillaria to bloom during the growing season. Schlumbergera truncata, commonly called crab cactus, Christmas cactus, or holiday cactus, is all the same plant. It is a popular winter flowering houseplant native to Brazil, available in a wide variety of colors, including red, purple, oranges, pinks, and creams. In its native environment, these cacti grow on rocks or in trees where hummingbirds pollinate the flowers. This cactus is a very popular plant, and many people are not aware of its special needs. The Christmas cactus actually calls the tropical rainforest home, and thus needs watering when the top inch of soil in the container feels dry to the touch, which may be more often than other succulents. Soak the soil until the water runs through the pot's drainage holes. Wait a few minutes, and then discard any excess water that has accumulated in the drip pan beneath the pot. A water-soluble fertilizer recommended for flowering houseplants can be applied during its active growth, but be sure to follow the directions on the fertilizer container regarding the amount and frequency of application. Temperature and day length provide crucial bloom triggers for the Christmas cactus. There is a simple trick to get them to bloom in the years after purchase. Christmas cacti will produce flowers in a cool environment with a short day cycle, where they have at least 16 hours of darkness per day. Placing the plant for 8 days on the windowsill of a room where lights are not turned on and the heating ducts are closed will do the trick. Wherever the plant is placed, do not turn the lights on at night, even for a short period of time, since that breaks the dark cycle required. The temperature should be around 60 degrees. Avoid placing the plant where it receives either cold or hot air drafts. After this 8-day period, the plant can be moved from its usual location so you can enjoy the flowers. These plants will do well year-round in a northeast window. If a Christmas cactus sets its flower buds and then they fall off, usually it has to do with either receiving too much or not enough water or a lack of air humidity. Test the soil and provide enough water during the blooming period. The good news is that Christmas cacti are considered relatively easy to get to bloom again if their temperature and light requirements are met. The hairy appearance of the old man cactus is intriguing, and they are just plain cute. There are many other types of cacti sold for use as houseplants, and appearance might be a key factor in plant selection. As with all cacti grown indoors, well-draining cactus soil and careful watering is important. The upright, barrel-shaped green body of the golden barrel cactus is covered with heavy gold-yellow spines. The flowers are gold. This cactus is good for beginners because it is easy to grow and it takes a while to get too big to handle. You can expect to wait about 10 years for this cactus to reach 10 inches in diameter. Like most cacti, they're drought tolerant and need very little care and attention to grow well. Not enough sunlight and overwatering are common mistakes. When handling, it's best to use gloves to protect your hands from the prickly spines and to place the plant where children or pets can't bump into it. In summary, succulents are very low-maintenance plants. Once established, they require minimal watering. Fertilization is minimal, and they suffer from few diseases or pest problems. They adapt to a wide range of temperatures, soils, and are even tolerant of salt spray. Those that flower attract all types of pollinators. They offer a lot of diversity in shape, colors, flowers, and patterns. They can be used indoors in containers, and as well as outdoors to fill in dry areas. Succulents are versatile, powerful plants. Consider adding them to your landscape or your home. In addition to taking advantage of our free Ask a Master Gardener phone and email service, we encourage you to visit the Outer Banks Arboretum and Teaching Gardens demonstration area to see succulents being used in the Waterwise garden. You will see many of the succulents highlighted in today's presentation. On Wednesday mornings, Master Gardener volunteers are working at the Arboretum and can give you a tour or answer your questions. Thank you again for joining us. Have a wonderful afternoon.